On the formal operational thought, at this stage, individuals move from the concrete experience and they're able to think in more abstract and logical ways. This is going to be from ages about 11 to 15. Adolescence, essentially. It's more abstract than concrete operational thought, and you can deal with purely hypothetical scenarios in this stage. Again, they're thinking like scientists. Adults, maybe not so much, but kids, when they're trying to figure out the world, they do kind of think as scientists. One of the things they do is what's called hypothetical deductive reasoning. They will develop hypotheses, they'll get their best guesses, and they'll try to systematically deduce which is the best path to follow in solving a problem. During this stage, there is a couple of things going on. One is an increased tendency to think about thought itself, and this is called metacognition. It's a really interesting concept to me. The idea that you think about what you're thinking about. If you just kind of catch yourself every once in a while, you're like, what am I thinking about right now? For a lot of people, this can be kind of reveal some things about your personality, because if you're thinking about, every time you ask yourself, what am I thinking about? If you're thinking about things that you're worried about, you're thinking about anxiety, that is kind of a signal that something's a little off that maybe you should think about. So metacognition is a great exercise to just kind of check in with yourself and see where you're at. Anyways, we do start to develop this in adolescence. As an example from a different textbook that I use, this is what an adolescent had said when they thought about metacognition. Quote, I began thinking about why I was thinking about what I was thinking about. And so yes, this is a skill that we start to develop in adolescence. We don't maybe do it so much as kids. And then again, when we become adults, and we have so many things going on, maybe we don't check in with ourselves like that. And you don't spend as much time in deep thought like that. But it is a really good exercise. Adolescents this time will also become more idealistic. They think about how they want things and others to be. And so there's kind of a positive here. They realize the potential in themselves and in larger groups. Maybe they'll get a little bit political. And it's why people around this age are the people that start protests, because they become idealistic. And they're like, I see how we can be better. Adolescents are more logical. Children use more kind of a trial and error, but adolescents, they're more like scientists, and they'll try to devise plans, test solutions, that hypothetical deductive reasoning, create hypotheses. On this formal operations, so here's a little bit of bad news. How many people reach the level of formal operations in the U.S.? You would assume, everybody goes through all these developmental stages and everybody would reach formal operations. According to one textbook, only about a third of people in the United States reach formal operations. And in some cultures, they never achieve it. Most people don't think like scientists. And so, example, if you go to your Facebook today, you're going to find some of your friends that posted things that are clearly inaccurate and clearly not true. And the reason they post those things is because they just don't think through them and they didn't learn how to think like a scientist. They may not have reached this stage of formal operations. Maybe they don't, use strategies like metacognition. What am I thinking about right now? Why am I thinking this? They don't go through those kinds of stages. So it is possible that, no, not everyone does reach formal operational stages. There are a couple other components to this stage that maybe are not so positive. One is adolescent egocentrism. It's the heightened self-consciousness of adolescents. It is reflected in their beliefs about that others are as interested in them as they are in themselves. So they think that there's the center of everyone's attention. There's two components to this. One, the imaginary audience, the feeling that you are in the center of attention, that you're on a stage and that everyone's looking at you. So yes, everyone's as interested in you as you are in yourself, but the truth is, as hopefully we all know, they are not as interested in you as you are. Some kids around this time, adolescents, they'll have a lot of attempts to get noticed, or they will want things specifically to not be noticed. Example, trying to be noticed, social media. It's an amplification tool for adolescent egocentrism. And Facebook usage, those social media, that is related to self-interest. So at least possibly, I talked a little bit about they'll get political. Maybe they're the ones that start protests because they see all the potential. There's also a less benevolent side to that. They're just trying to be the center of attention. There's also examples where they don't want things to be noticed. So maybe you don't go to school because you're having a bad hair day. That would be an example of you think everyone's going to see how bad your hair is. And so it's like, I can't even go to school because it's so bad. Another component of this, the imaginary audience, first one. And then the second component is the personal fable. A sense of personal uniqueness and invincibility is part of the personal fable. That no one can understand me because my situation is so unique. I'm so unique. or that bad things won't happen to me because I'm too special. For example, especially around this time, for girls, maybe it's, I won't get pregnant. It'll be okay. I'm special. I'm unique. It won't happen to me. A guy, maybe he'll go out and drive a car really fast. And he's like, I won't get hurt. I don't need to wear a seatbelt. I'll be fine. I'm special. I'm unique. I'm invincible. Clearly, this is how a lot of adolescents get hurt and injured and have unwanted pregnancies and all these different things that can happen. Another part of this personal uniqueness is the idea that they'll craft a story or a fantasy about themselves that's really far removed from reality. I'll become famous in some occupation like singing, but then they never actually practice singing. So there's that personal fable, I'm going to be a famous singer someday, but then they don't actually sing. Okay, so that is the end of the formal operational stage. In the next set of slides, we'll get into Piaget's theory and education.